Welcome to episode 1 of the Orange Affair podcast. I'm Keith Bremer, alongside Mark Eckenrod, John DeLabrere. We're going to be talking Syracuse sports every Thursday here on the Orange Affair. We're on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, and YouTube, so give us a follow on all those. First thing we're going to do today is talk about some SU hoops. We're going to get into some football and some other Syracuse sports. So we got a good lineup today, and we're looking forward to getting the podcast going.
You're taking some bullets there broadside with some of the Syracuse comments. How you hanging?
They have no idea. They don't.
It's inaccurate.
Well, then you don't understand me, and you're making a judgment.
You got a fan base that thinks I got something in for them.
Don't tell me how upset I am.
They didn't look into your heart. They didn't look into my heart.
If you have a short time to prepare, it's advantage Syracuse.
Because they came to whose house?
The Orange Affair.
Before we get into basketball, what are your guys' overall thoughts on the state of football and some of the other Syracuse sports?
Well, I thought with the football season, I like what Dino has done so far with the changing of the culture here at Syracuse. It's going to take a few years, I feel, before, so he can get some time to recruit the players he wants in our system. But, I thought we had a good season overall. I mean, that win at Virginia Tech was probably the highlight of the season. But in all reality, I only felt like we lost 2 games that we could have won. One maybe against NC State and one against Wake Forest. The rest of the losses, those would have been tough games to pull out. So I think for the first year with Dino as the head coach, I think we have a lot to look forward to after this season.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Mark said. I think that, it was an below average season, but I don't think the expectations were overall that high. When you bring in a coach that changes the entire system, changes the entire offense, you can't expect it to just work seamlessly in the first year. So I think there were some positive takeaways from when Dino came in. I think he completely changed the culture of Syracuse football, and I think that was a positive thing for sure. I'm excited for what he can do. And I'd say that, it takes a few years to fully implement a system because you can bring in players that fit your system and whatnot. And so I'm excited to see what Dino can do in the future. But overall this year, I agree. We were 4-8. We could have been 5-7. But overall, I think it's pretty much what fans probably expected.
Yeah, I agree with what both of you said. I think it's a work in progress, especially when you're switching systems. Not even from like a 4-3 to a 3-4. This was one of the slowest offenses in the league. You're going to the up-tempo style that we saw all season. So, yeah, it's going to be a rough transition. Even with a quarterback like Dungy, who didn't play the whole season, there's going to be growing pains. And even more than the offense, we saw growing pains on D, adjusting to that Tampa 2. So the secondary needs to adjust. The linebackers actually had a pretty good season, and the front 7 needs to adjust as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out in the future. All right, so SU basketball for the moment. A rough week for them, a rough stretch of games, lost 3 out of the last 4. So going into this UConn game, I was like, oh, perfect game for Syracuse. UConn's missing guys. They got Terry Larrier, Alterique Gilbert, both out for the season. They lost to Wagner. They lost to Northeastern to open the season. But it's still a big-time school. We'll get the win in the Garden, get some confidence. Nope, we get a terrible game from both teams. Both teams have more fouls than shots made. And SU falls devastatingly 52-50. So if you guys want to talk about what you think went right, what you think went wrong, we'll start with Mark.
Well, I mean, my main takeaway from the game is that our offense basically depends on how well Andrew White's shooting the ball on that given day, because he's the only consistent source of offense we've had so far. I feel like Boeheim's decision to pull Roberson from the starting lineup in the last 2 games was in hopes that Tyus Battle would help us generate more offense, but I don't think that has paid dividends yet, and we still really don't have an offensive identity. I mean, DeJuan Coleman in the last couple games has been one of our top scorers, and we definitely didn't expect that going in. So defensively, we played, they're not a very good shooting team, but we played well, and I think the only problem with our defense was sometimes our rebounding, which ironically is how we ended up losing the game on UConn rebound that we missed a box out on at the end of the game. But I think our big struggle right now is with our offense, and that's where we have to improve.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start with that game. For all you Syracuse fans out there, if you made it through the game, congrats, because it was tough. My main takeaway, I guess, would be that this offense is going to be really hard to watch for stretches of basketball this season. And it's really going to show how much we're going to miss Malachi Richardson and Benajay, and to a certain extent, even Cooney.
Defensively, especially.
Yeah, well, we're going to miss them on offense just because they could create their own shots. And this season, we've seen that, White is a terrific shooter, but he's not a huge shot creator. And beyond him, we have almost zero guys who create their own shots. We end up having Frank with the ball in his hands trying to create, and that's not something where we want to be from an offensive standpoint. Coleman stepped up big with his chances in the last game, and I think we probably need to go through him more at times because he's just a big body down low. A lot of teams can't match up with his size. But 6 of 24 isn't going to happen for us from deep. If that's how we're shooting from three-point line, we're not going to win a game.
Yeah.
So mainly I just think shot selection has to improve. Defensively, it wasn't awful, but there was no reason why Purvis was allowed to get the shots that he got in that game, especially with how well he was shooting. Without their scores, like you said, that was a game that we really should have taken advantage of and win. I mean, it was an old rivalry game. That was one that we could have kind of, it could have been a big momentum shift for us in the season. So that's kind of where I'm at. There was that final play where I think inexperience kind of just showed up on the defensive end. But
yeah. Defensively, it's more of UConn's offensive struggles than anything. Like you said, it was a big game for momentum. So instead of climbing ourselves out of the hole, we dug a deeper hole. So I'll start with what went right. Not a lot. Considering, looking at the stats, both teams had identical stats. But the thing is, they were identically terrible on both ends, from free throws to turnovers. So Dajuan Coleman played really well. I would say probably his best game of his career in Syracuse. Throwing it back to the Jamesville DeWitt years, 16 and 10, consistent force all game. Best player on the court for Syracuse all night. Tough to dispute that. What went wrong was just about everything besides that. So looking at the stats here, Leiden, your NBA ready, your Wooden Award watch list, 7 points in 40 minutes.
Terrible.
4 of the 7 were free throws. From the field, he was 1 for 7. You look at point guards who were a bright spot early in the year. Frank and Gillen combined 0 for 14, 0 for 6 from 3, and 3 points. So what that translated to offensively was no ball movement, jacking up shots, usually Andrew White, and a stagnant offense with just a lot of ISO basketball. So I felt like I was watching last year's Houston Rockets. It was not a pretty sight.
Last year's Houston Rockets.
But yeah, those are my thoughts. My concern is that this team is so multi-dimensional that it'll be tough to find the right lineup. I want to get your guys' thoughts on that too. I think Roberson should still be in the starting lineup, especially with the way Leiden's played. Leiden had a great year last year as a sixth man. I know this streak of struggles is relatively new, but I think Roberson, his rebounding and defensive presence is crucial, especially when Leiden's not giving you anything else. So he's in the doghouse, and then Gillen and Thompson both played about 12 to 14 minutes. So we're seeing that shift to the classic Boeheim 5, 6, 7, 8 guy rotation.
We all expected the preseason.
Yeah, but I don't think any of us really expected it this quickly. So looking ahead, Syracuse plays Boston University this Saturday. It's a noon tip-off in the Dome. So let's get a little look at BU, what they bring to the table. I'll start with John. Let us know what you think about Boston and the game heading on Saturday.
Sure thing. So Boston University, I think they're 4-5 right now. First in the Patriot League Conference. Congrats. Great job, BU. But I think that this is a team that, Syracuse we're a more talented team. Offensively, BU, they have 6 guys averaging 7 or more points. They have 1 guy, that's kind of scoring the most for them. I think he's at about 16. And so they get a lot of guys involved on that end of the floor. But I think the key stat I saw with them was that they just shoot 31% from distance. And I think that's going to play really well into our 2-3 zone because, the threes are available against us. And if they're not going to be able to hit from deep, then they're going to really struggle putting up points against our defense. So with that said, I think we're probably going to limit them on the offensive end. It's going to come down to what we can do on offense. And, we've struggled there the last few weeks, so this can be a big game for us to kind of get back on track. We've said that for each of the last few games pretty much. But I really think that, if we're going to hold them, to 40, 50 points, I would assume, without the three-point shooting. So as long as we can score, play moderately well on defense, I'd say moderately well on offense. I'd say chalk this up as a W for us.
Chalk it up after losing 3 of 4?
I'd say so.
North Florida by 6?
4-5. BU from the Patriot League.
Yeah.
I'd say chalk it.
Fair point. What I noticed was that the guards for BU are extremely turnover prone. The team doesn't average a ton of turnovers, but it's usually condensed to the guards and then one of the forwards. So one of their starting guards has 10 assists and 21 turnovers this season, which you don't have to be a math whiz to know those numbers are very bad. Another guard has 12 assists, 13 turnovers. So you like your guards to have a 2-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. That's just not happening. And then the senior forward, Justin Alston, 2 assists and 12 turnovers. So not a great start in his senior year. What's the interesting about BU is they have pretty good size. But if our zone can cause that combination of turnovers and what you mentioned, the poor three-point performance, I can't see them scoring a lot of points. It should be a relatively low-scoring game. And the question becomes for us on offense, can we put the ball in the basket, especially with their height and their length? Obviously, less skill, presumably. But it'll be interesting to see if we can put the ball in the basket. I look for us to get our momentum going by a lot of fast break points, a lot of up-tempo, short offensive possessions. So look for Syracuse to run and gun in the Dome on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I agree with what Keith said about their turnovers. We need to find a way to generate offense, and I think, getting some fast break, easy points would be helpful for us with the way our offense has been playing. And in the last 4 games, BU's given up about 74 points a game, but in one of those games was a loss by 2 points to UConn, 51-49.
Sounds familiar.
That reminds me of a game we played not too long ago. So I'm not chalking it up as a win yet. I still think we're going to pull out a W, but we only beat North Florida by like 7. So I think we're going to have to find a way. This might be another game where our offense struggles, especially with their size, because UConn's size certainly caused some problems for us. So.
I think a key matchup there is watch out for BU's player Fanning. He's their top scorer. He's a big guy. Scores all his points inside the three-point arc. So he scores down low. I think if we can limit him and if we can limit their chances of getting him the ball, I think that they're not going to be in the game by the time the buzzer sounds because he's their guy.
Mm-hmm. It all comes down to that part of the zone, the free throw line. If he's posted up at the free throw line all day, it could be a rough day for our zone, not overall, but just in terms of guarding him.
Right.
But if we can control the middle, like Coleman's been doing a pretty good job of, Chukwu, that's a whole other story. He's not even seeing the court. He was supposed to be our rim protector, but overall the defense has done a decent job. It's been the offense that's given us problems. So if we can lock him up inside the paint, we should be in pretty good shape.
I agree.
Yeah.
So continuing on basketball, we're going to talk about our biggest surprises this season personally. Going into the year, we knew we had a lot of talent on this team. We knew the things we could accomplish, but what is your biggest surprise this season? I'll start with John.
Yeah, so my biggest surprise this season has definitely been the play of Dajuan Coleman. I know you guys and probably a lot of our viewers love Dajuan Coleman. I've always thought that he could be a big piece for us, but it's kind of never really come together these past few years. But I think this season we've kind of seen him finally carve out his own role in Boeheim's rotation, which he's always struggled to do. And he's taking advantage of his opportunities on offense, which surprisingly has been going through him at times, especially in these last 2 or 3 games. He's shooting almost 60% this year, so that's a pretty good number for him up at center. And while we know he's not going to be the strongest defender on the team, he's shown that he's had improvement on the glass. You can see he's working a lot harder, and I think he has improved on the defensive end, maybe not to stellar performances, but he's playing well enough to get by. And really the rebound rate's the big thing for me. It's up, and I'd say a lot of this is due to just increased confidence. You know, he's playing well. He's finally getting the minutes that he probably thinks he's deserved, being the fifth-year senior. And, you know, with the increased confidence, I like what I've seen. I like what he can do moving forward.
Yeah, for me, it would be the rotation. We knew going in that we wouldn't figure out the right rotation right away, and we knew that the rotation would be trimmed. So basically the consensus between us three was that Torian Thompson would be the odd man out. He'd be that ninth man who doesn't see the court a lot when ACC play starts. And here we are, 5 games before the ACC schedule, and Thompson's been the guy, not Chukwu. Chukwu's played 7 minutes in the last 3 games, and all 7, I believe, came against Wisconsin. And the play that really stood out to me in that game, Chukwu was benched for about 20 minutes. This is the game after, like, South Carolina and every game before that, I believe, he played at least probably 15 to 20 minutes a night.
He was even over 20%.
Yeah, and Wisconsin, he struggled early on, and he found a seat on the bench early. And then the play that stuck out, Chukwu finally gets back in. I'm yelling at the TV, put Chukwu in because we need a rim protector, at least while Wisconsin's scoring on the interior. And so we're down probably 10 points at this point. It's maybe 5-6 minutes to go. He gets in the game, and he's the back line of our press, obviously. We start the press, and he comes up to half court to try to steal the ball. They go right by him for an easy bucket, and he was immediately done and hasn't seen the court at all since that play. So I was surprised that he hasn't been developed more. From his first year at Providence to practicing with that Final Four team last year to the preseason this year, he's still very raw, and I guess too raw for Boeheim to see any value in playing him. Also, I think Frank has been good against bad teams, and against good teams he's struggled. Gillen has been inconsistent as well. So the other thing that surprised me rotation-wise is that Torian Thompson is playing more minutes up till Tyus started than Tyus Battle. Tyus was our savior, our big recruit coming in, decommit from Michigan. He comes here. He's supposed to be our new Malachi, and he comes off the bench and plays less minutes than Torian. But now that he's in the starting role, he's played pretty well, all boxing out in the last 5 seconds of the game aside. Tyus has played pretty well, and Torian has actually surprised me too. So all of that, the rotation is my biggest surprise.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with that. I think the rotation is the biggest surprise so far. I think for me, it's Roberson being pulled from the starting lineup, and I believe we did that for offensive purposes, and that's what Boeheim was thinking. But Roberson was arguably one of our MVPs last year, at least for the first half of the season. We saw what he did against Duke, and he was the main reason we won that game. And it hurts us in the 2-3 sometimes because Andrew White is not as good a rebounder as Roberson is, and that we saw that hurt us a few times in that Wisconsin and UConn game. But I think the rotation has been the biggest surprise. I think Battle is going to improve because we saw Malachi struggle at the beginning of last season too, and then he came on at the end. I expected Leiden to play better so far, and I think our season's gonna end up, and that's gonna be the epitome of the season. Whether he comes on at the end. In Boeheim's press conference after the game, he said he doesn't care if Leiden shoots the ball 17 times and only makes it 4 times. He wants him to shoot the ball more. And I think he's not looking to score as much as we probably need him to, especially when our offense is struggling. So I think those are the biggest surprises so far.
Mm-hmm. So staying on basketball, time for one of my favorite segments, Guess That Player. So we each get a stat for a player over a stretch of games or over the course of a whole season, and the other 2 of us have to guess who that player is. So I guess I'll start this one. Who is this player? Leading the team in free throw shooting percentage this year, shooting 81.3%. Who is this player?
I think I know. Do you know?
No, you go first.
I think it's Tyler Roberson.
Is it Roberson?
I think
it is Tyler Roberson.
Yeah.
Tyler Roberson is 13 of 16 this year from the free throw line. Last year, he was 60 out of 104. So he's gone from 57% to 81%. So you guys got it. I'm surprised you got that one. But that was a good guess.
All right, Mark, you go.
All right. Well, mine is what players lead. He's third in shots attempted, tied for third, and he's third in minutes played. This one was a surprise to me.
So third in minutes played, third in shots attempted.
Tied for third.
I'm going to go with Frank.
Yep, it's Frank Howard, and that was a surprise to me. I didn't. We saw at the beginning, the first few games, even in exhibition games, that as soon as he made one mistake, he was coming out for Gillen. But now it feels like every time I look up at the TV, Gillen's not in. So
yeah,
it seems like he's gotten a longer leash this season.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sure. Yeah, especially with that developed jump shot.
Mm-hmm.
Boeheim's not yelling at him anymore. Last year, he shoots a shot outside of 4 feet and he's gone.
His shot percentage hasn't been great, but at least he's looking to score, and I feel like some of our other players aren't doing that. So.
Yeah, his 3-point percentage has actually been pretty solid. His 2-point percentage is about average now that the tougher competition has started. But yeah, that's a good one.
All right, so I actually had two, so we can have fun with two of these. So the first one was leading our team this season in turnovers. He's the only person with over 2 turnovers a game.
I'm going to go with Lydon.
I'm going to go White.
Keith's got it. It's Tyler Lydon leading our team in turnovers, which, coming from a forward, that's not something you really want at all. So second one I had was leading our team in free throw attempts.
Free throw attempts. Getting
to the line the most frequently.
I'm going to say Coleman.
I want to say Coleman as well.
Wrong. It is not Coleman. It is Frank Howard.
Frank Howard, all right.
27 times. He's only made 14, which leaves a lot to be desired. 14 to 27 is not a number you want from your point guard. But I thought that was interesting that he's gotten there the most on the team.
Yeah, man, he's one of our only players that really attack the basket consistently.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, a lot comes from driving to the basket and a lot of fast break points, too.
Another interesting thing I saw when I was looking for a stat was Frank Howard really limits the turnovers. For a guy who has the ball a lot of the time on offense, he only had, I think, like 1.5, 1.6 turnovers compared to his assist numbers, which are really high. His assist-to-turnover ratio is really outstanding.
Yeah, he's definitely, I think, the most improved player so far on our team.
No doubt. So today we're going to do a little more football. It's kind of our football wrap-up, seeing as the season has winded down after that thriller at Heinz Field that Mark was at. Back at the hometown. So we're going to give out some awards now. We're going to give out our offensive MVP, defensive MVP, and our most improved player from that we think will be next season. So who we think will improve the most next season. So first, offensive MVP.
Take it away, Keith.
I think this is the most obvious choice we will ever have on the show. It's Amba Edetawo. We knew coming into Dino's system that a receiver would flourish, a receiver would stand out. But I think most people thought it would be Steve Ishmael after his big year last season. No one saw this coming. No one really knew Amba that well. Oh, we got a grad transfer from Maryland that didn't play much. No one really knew what he could become. Even if he did, I don't think anyone would have predicted it. So, yeah, the numbers he put up this year speak for themselves, and now he's going to have a shot at playing on Sundays.
I agree. It's definitely Amba Edetawo. That's obvious, but it is, he made the right choice for himself, I feel, coming to this system. He didn't really know what the system was going to be like, but he put his faith into it, and he obviously flourished in it. But next to Amba Edetawo, because I felt like he was the obvious pick, I think it's the next obvious pick in Herb Phillips, who I expect is going to have a big senior year, as he was second on our team in receptions, and he's going to be getting some of those passes that Edetawo would have got this year. So I expect a big year from him next year.
So pull out the brooms. We got a sweep across the boat here. I would say that it's definitely Edetawo too. He got the All-American nod. And I just remember coming into the year, we're all there sitting in the student section of these games, and this guy's just pulling in catches, and there's everyone in the student section like, who is this guy? We've never heard of this guy. Like, everyone knew Ishmael, everyone knew Phillips, and, Edetawo came out of nowhere, but he was dominant all season long. 5 touchdown performance.
Against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, against Pittsburgh. I know you love that, Mark.
I did.
Yeah.
But he has had a great season. I think he's definitely unanimous.
He's a versatile. It wasn't like he was just going long. He was catching slants. We used him pretty much in every situation.
And he was great on screens.
He's a big target too. It's not like some of the other guys like Phillips, Grizzlies team. He's they're a lot of slant passes. They're smaller guys. They can get banged up easy. So Editao's got the body. He's got the skills. Hopefully he can put it all together for the NFL. Now let's go defensive MVP. Interested to see what your guys take on this. Maybe you sweep as well. But my guy is Zaire Franklin. Zaire is really a leader on and off the field. He was the first sophomore captain for the SU football team in decades. I don't know the exact year. That was last year. This year, his junior year, he's been that same guy, the same leader, putting up big numbers once again. And his senior year should be really fun to watch. So my defensive MVP is Zaire Franklin.
Yeah, I think I had Zaire Franklin too. I think it's another one that's kind of clear. One of our best players, two straight years now. I think he was our most dominant guy on defense in a season where we had kind of weak play from the defensive line. We had definitely some weak play in our secondary. I thought the linebacker group was pretty solid all year long, and Zaire was the leader of that group. So he'd be my MVP on defense.
Well, after watching that Pitt game, it's hard to pick anyone on the defensive end. My friends from Pittsburgh were asking me if we had a defense, but no, I definitely think you got to go with Zaire still. The one play that sticks out to me was the big interception he had against Boston College. And he made big plays in games where we needed him to. So I definitely think he was our best player this year.
He's what it means to be a student athlete. He's great in the classroom, great in the community, and a force to be reckoned with at middle linebacker. So the sweep once again. And now I'm really interested to see this area. So most improved player for next year. So who do you think from this year's team or an incoming freshman will be the most improved player next year? I'll start with Mark.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say it's going to be one of the running backs because we didn't use him much this year. Jordan Fredericks, he went from 107 attempts to just 28 this year. But I'm actually going to say I liked what I saw from freshman Mo Neal in a few of those games. He's quick, and we showed that we wanted to use him in our system. He was averaging over 5 yards a rush. He had a few big runs for us this year. And I think we're going to look to get him more involved next year. So I definitely think he might be someone to look out for.
I don't know if any Bills fans are watching, but a guy that Mo Neal reminds me of on the Bills is Mike Gillislee. He's very quick, very relentless on the field. Mike Gillislee, they call him Touchdown Mike because it seems like every time he gets the ball, it's a touchdown. I feel the same with Mo Neal.
He had 2
this year. Even if it's garbage time, it seems like every time he's in the game, he's breaking off huge runs. And he was one of the most highly touted players to come in as a freshman this year. So, yeah, I like that pick.
So I opted to go with Sean Riley. Sean Riley took over the kicking duties for parts of the season from Briz, who did kickoff returns. Yeah. And I just think, he wasn't, outstanding in the role this year, but there were times where he played really well. He had some decent returns. So I don't know. I like his potential in the role. I think he overall is a good guy to have in that spot. He's quick. He's really quick. So I think we've been treated as some pretty good return guys.
Yeah.
Brisley Steam was a really good return guy, and I think with him leaving, I think Riley could really step up in that role. So.
We even used him on offense every once in a while, and with losing some wide receivers, he definitely could step up next year.
He got that speed. He's really fast.
Yeah. Adam Israel, one of our good friends. Shout out to Adam if you're watching. He raves about how fast Sean Riley is. All the coaching staff loves his speed and are looking to find new ways to use him, and that's not hard to do in this system. So from one small guy to another, my most improved player for next year is going to be Davon Ellison. I love this guy. One of the hardest hitting safeties in the entire ACC, maybe even the country. It seems like every game he just puts someone on the Madden hit stick. He just has a great sense of direction, great footwork, and isn't afraid of anyone. So his listing has him 5'8", 177.
Small dude.
For an ACC safety. But you wouldn't know that from the way he plays. So he's all over the place, doesn't back down. I think he'll be in a huge role next year. And if we were to do it last season for this season, he might have been the most improved player this year. Like he didn't play at all, I don't think, his freshman year, maybe sparingly. And this year he's had a big role with all the injuries. Yeah. So I look to see him next year in his junior year.
So one thing I want to throw out on football real quick is everyone looking forward to the 2017 season. You know, you think that the season could go up. I'm going to warn you, don't look at that schedule just yet. It's scary. You're not going to like it. There's a stretch that, you know, you just don't want to see. So just hold off on looking at that 2017 schedule, and you'll be able to have positive thoughts on next year.
To be fair, though, we have a good mix. So it seems like really high, really low. We have LSU, Clemson again, I believe.
Florida State again. Louisville.
But on the other end, we have
Miami. All in a row.
We have Middle Tennessee State. So not the team that beat Michigan in the 15-2. No, it's their football team. They have a football team. So that should be an easy win.
I think they're 8-4 this year. Or maybe that was the other team.
No, they were 8-4.
I think they're a pretty solid team.
Well, I take that back. We do have one FCS game. Rumor has it it's going to be Central Connecticut. It's not announced yet, but either way, we should beat an FCS team regardless. So a lot of the home schedule isn't terrible, but the away schedule is absolutely brutal, which could be tough to pull off upsets in those environments.
I just say it's that stretch where we got LSU, Clemson, Florida State, Louisville, Miami. And it's literally like it's either 5 straight or 5 out of 6, and it's just going to be rough to come back.
It would be nice if we could pull out at least one Virginia Tech win like we had this year. You know, something to really remember about this.
It's going to be those games where you go in and you're like, all right, who do we got next week?
Yeah.
All right, who do we got next week? And it just keeps going.
And love or hate the bowl system, I'm not a huge fan. I think there's too many bowls. I think you should be at least 6-6, probably 7-5 to get a bowl invite.
I agree.
But we win one more game this year, we're in a bowl.
Likely,
So we would have been. It's 100% we would have been in a bowl if we had beaten, say, Wake Forest or we didn't play Virginia, but a lower end ACC team would have had us in a bowl. So it's tough for the athletic department. We talk about try to balancing getting people to games like the LSU series. Great crowd, big TV deals, all that kind of stuff. But a low chance of winning. I think Wildcat did a good job of getting the Army series, West Point. Geographically, it makes sense.
Yeah,
skill-wise, it makes sense. Army's a good team, and still a big name. So I like that direction they're headed there.
For sure.
And just to kind of wrap up football, just what are your general thoughts on how the season went? I know we touched upon it earlier, and then looking ahead to next year. Mark, what do you think?
I just think our defense was banged up this year, and I think we're going to have to improve defensively if we want to win games. And, we put a lot of pressure on our defense with our fast-paced system, If our offense is going 3 and out, or it feels like our defense is always on the field. So we definitely, need to move the ball, to give our defense a little bit of help. But, it's rough. We're losing Alba Tavo after one season after the numbers he put up. So, it's a process, I think we got, in a few years, you got to trust the process, and trust in our recruiting for, the system that we want to have here. But I think things are looking up,
Yeah, I think 4-8 was kind of in the ballpark of what most people expected, maybe a little better. But the culture, I think, was the biggest difference. Dino has established his brand of football. Although it wasn't pretty, mostly defensively, I think it's a step in the right direction overall. Winning in college football, it's tough because if your coach gets fired, unless you're an LSU or unless you're a Houston, you're not in good shape to begin with, let alone when you have all that former poor to average coaches recruits. So once Dino gets his recruits in here, I think it'll be a little different. We were injury riddled this year. The secondary especially, which was the worst link of our team by far. Just watch the Pitt game for 5 minutes and you'll know that. But we lost. Dowles was a big loss at corner. Once we get the guys back, we'll see. But like you said, a tough schedule. Overall, I think it was a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the main takeaway from this season is just the culture change. And I know just coming into the year, before we even played any football, the whole marketing campaign, Orange is the new fast, based it all on Dino coming in, his new offense. I think that's huge. I think that's something that we can run with, but I think it's also something you change the system. You have to wait for your new coach to bring in guys that fit that system.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not ready to judge Dino just yet on his performance. I think he did fine. And I think, give him another year or two, and Syracuse football is definitely going to be on the up.
Yeah.
So I like where we're going in the future.
Yeah, I agree. So, John, you want to take us through a little women's basketball recap?
Sure thing. So, women's basketball. I think it's safe to say coming into the year that we all had some pretty lofty expectations for the girls' hoops team. Coming off national championship run we had last year, and we were all treated to that. I think it really got people involved on campus, and I think because of that, we had a lot more people tuning in this season. And, we had a lot of key players returning. I imagine we were going to be one of the better teams across the country this season. And, we got off to a bumpy stretch. There was a rough, week to 2 week stretch that saw us go 1-3. We had losses to Drexel, Ohio State, and DePaul. And the one thing I wanted to point out about that stretch is that the upside is the teams we lost to in Ohio State and DePaul, they're both good, they're ranked, they're formidable opponents. Ohio State, I think we only lost to by 5. DePaul kind of killed us, but you're not going to come out and play your best basketball every game. The Drexel loss, a little bit different. That's a team that we really shouldn't drop to. I get it was only 1 point loss, but we had a bad week. It's not like it's something that we've been kind of just rough the whole season. It was just a 4-game stretch. Since then, we've gone 3-0, getting back on track, including a win over 22-ranked Michigan State. Shout out to back home, all you Michigan State fans and alums. We beat you. It's over. Syracuse over Michigan State. That's settled. But yeah, I think that any way you look at it, we had a rough stretch and we're rebounding from it now. I think it's too quick to say that we're concerned this season with the women's basketball team. I think we still have a great team. Mm-hmm. Obviously, have a great coach in Coach Q. And I still think that we can make waves in the women's basketball season. So I'm not going to judge them just yet. We have the Florida Sunshine Classic coming up, ACC play. I think we have one game that we're favored in before that. So if we can get to 7-3 before all that starts, I still like where we're at.
Yeah. And how about the crowd for that Coppin State game? Last night, it was school day, for those of you who don't follow Syracuse women's hoops. So they had a bunch of interactive stuff for the kids, a crowd of about 3,900, I believe.
Let's go.
Third largest crowd in program history, made up of over 3,000 kids because it was an 11 a.m. Tip time, so not a lot of other people could make it out. But yeah, it was a great atmosphere. I had to work, so I couldn't be there, but from all I've read and seen, it was.
I saw some photos. Those kids were going wild.
Those kids were going wild.
Yeah.
I know Brittany Sykes was signing autographs for a long time after that one, which she had to be happy about. But yeah, it's a cool atmosphere, and I think it's a really good promotion for a team like women's basketball.
They're definitely fun to watch. I mean, Peterson is a Player of the Year candidate right now.
Yep, she's on the winning list.
They definitely. She's been spectacular so far, even in her losses. So.
That guard combo is
probably
one of the best in the nation.
And that's why I'm not considered yet, because with those two, we're going to be in games and all that stuff. So look out for us. We're still there.
Mm-hmm. So we got some of the other sports recapped. Take it away.
Men's cross country and women's field hockey are both coming off 2015 national championships. Unfortunately, they were unable to repeat this year, but they both finished with a great season. For men's cross country, they won the Northeast Regional, and they went into the nationals ranked 5th. They ended up finishing 3rd, so they did better than they were expected to. Justin Knight finished 2nd overall in that race, so congratulations to him. He also, for 2nd straight year in a row, he was the ACC Performer of the Year. So the program's been great ever since Coach Fox took over. In his 4 years, he's won ACC Coach of the Year all 4 years. So our cross-country team's definitely looking up, and they finished with a solid season. And for field hockey, they were ranked number 1 earlier in the season. They lost a couple games, lost a bad game to Wake Forest in the ACC. They lost, and then we win the playoffs and lost in the round of 8 to a good UConn team that was 25-1. We lost in double overtime. I was at that game. Tough game. UConn outplayed us for most of it, but we were right there, and we were 1 shot away from going back to the Final Four. 3 of those girls also made All-American, so you got to be happy with that season. And lastly, our soccer team, men's soccer, they made the Final Four for the first time last season. So we had high hopes coming in. They weren't able to get past the round of 16. They played a good UNC team. North Carolina came here earlier in the year, and it ended in a tie in double overtime. So we knew it was going to be a tough game, and we ended up losing 1-0. But from that team, Miles Robinson finished. He was named the ACC Defender of the Year, and it was actually just announced he's been invited to the U.S. Men's U20 International Camp. So congratulations and good luck to him on that.
So the weekly schedule coming up, not a lot going on because we're winding down the weekend here, and then it's finals week, so there are no sports next week. But Friday, women's ice hockey takes on Clarkson at 7 p.m. puck drop. Saturday, the men's basketball game we mentioned against BU. That's going to be a noon tip-off. Women's ice hockey back at it again on Saturday at Clarkson, 4 p.m. And the women's basketball team will take on Niagara at the Dome. That's a 3 p.m. tip after the men's game. So that's all we have this week on episode 1 of The Orange Affair. Thanks for checking us out. We will be back next week, same time, for all your Syracuse sports.
You're taking some bullets there broadside with some of the Syracuse comments. How you hanging?
They have no idea. They don't.
It's inaccurate.
Well, then you don't understand me, and you're making a judgment.
You got a fan base that thinks I got something into them.
Don't tell me how upset I am.
They didn't look into your heart. They didn't look into my heart.
If you have a short time to prepare, it's Advantage Syracuse.
Because they came to whose house?
The Orange Affair.